and back in the bag again. Whoa, whoa, yeah.
Hey, what's up, everyone, and welcome to the Splash City Basketball Podcast, your go-to basketball podcast where we're diving deep into the game that matters most right here in the land of 10,000 lakes. I am your host, Steve Hartman. The Wolves rebound from a lackluster Game 1 to defeat the Denver Nuggets 119-114 in Game 2 of the NBA playoffs. I'll break down the pluses, minuses, and what the Wolves may do in Game 3 as they return to Target Center. Before we tip off today's episode, make sure to take a minute, follow Splash City Podcast on Instagram, follow it on Facebook, Blue Sky, and of course, subscribe wherever you get your podcasts like Apple, Spotify, and Amazon. You can even listen to the podcast on your connected devices. Appreciate you following the podcast and being here with me today, as always. All right, the vaunted Wolves defense showed up again. They come back from down 19 early. How did it happen? Let's get into it. All right, there are a few things early in this game that I really like. We're going to go through the plus minus today. The plus, let's talk about the positives. First things first, I thought the way Julius Randle started the game off was really indicative of the Wolves' attitude in this game. I know the first quarter wasn't great defensively, but Julius Randle early was cooking. He was being decisive. Even though he's not a great three-point shooter this year, he was catching in rhythm, making shots, getting to the basket. That physical mindset, I feel like, kind of set the tone, at least early, even though the teammates maybe didn't follow his lead on that. But I did think this was a nice bounce-back game from Julius. More well-rounded, 24 points, 6, 7 assists, rebounds. I mean, sharing the basketball, making some great passes that led to baskets, hockey assists. I'm thinking later in the second half, his post up at the elbow, attacking a smaller defender, immediately skipping to the corner, swings up to Nas for an open three. Great example of how Julius kind of just looked a lot more comfortable in the game last night. My second positive is sharing the basketball. The ball was not sticking. Game 1, the Timberwolves had 21 assists on 30 made shots, and they had on 40 made shots, and on 30 assists on 43 made shots in Game 2. That's almost 70% baskets made off an assist compared to just over 50%. I think that's a very good indicator for how the Wolves offense is humming. When the ball is moving, they are much harder to defend. Even late in the game, the double team on Ant kicks it to Dante in the slot, and he drills that three, put him up 4 at that point. Up 2. That was after Gordon's 3. Oh yeah, it was 4. After Gordon's 3 cut it to 1. Dante comes right back and bangs a triple. So just a lot of good indicators on how the Wolves were moving the basketball last night. I thought another key play was Ant kind of at the top of the key, and Jaden was trying to set a flare screen on the backside, and he slips it. He cuts to the basket, doesn't get it on his cut, but then he holds his ground in the dunker spot and gets a pass from Ant, touch pass from Jaden to Julius for an easy 2. Again, just a great example of moving without the ball, letting things develop, finding the space, and Ant being aware. And Ant just played an outstanding floor game. I mean, he had 10 boards, but also, again, moving the basketball, key times, not really forcing it when it wasn't there. So I just thought overall, the sharing of the basketball was so important. And again, it's why this team has been a little frustrating, right, for the last few years, is because it is quite obvious when they do certain things, they're more successful. And one of those things is sharing the basketball. I thought the second chance points was another great telling statistic, indicator of their effort. They put up 20 second chance points to 3 for Denver. Denver's not a great offensive rebounding team. I think they're like 25th in the league in offensive rebound rate. They just don't have a ton of athleticism around the basket. But punishing someone, winning that margin by 17 is just really important for the Wolves. When you're playing against a team who in a half court can score so efficiently, you have to manufacture easy baskets, opportunities. And one of the ways you can do that is on the offensive rebounding. Another way is in transition, which again wasn't as high as I would like it to be, um, playing against the Nuggets, but the Nuggets just don't turn it over a lot. I think they were single digits in turnovers in game 2. So, um, you know, second chance points was huge. Io had a tip in. Nas was active on the glass. Nas ended up with 9 rebounds. Rudy's putback dunk over Jokic late was huge. So just a lot of positives there on rebounding, especially on the offensive end. My third positive from this game, there's going to be a lot more positives in this game than game 1, of course. My third one, though, is Dante DiVincenzo. I thought he was maybe not the best player on the court, but maybe one of the most important. I mean, just the amount of little winning plays that he does in a game is something I think young players should watch, because he's not the guy with the ball in his hands all game, but he makes plays. I think about that stop that Rudy had on Jokic late, about 4 or 5 minutes to go, and the ball's kind of getting tipped around, and Jokic looks like he's about to grab it, and from the backside, Dante comes and snags that rebound, and he goes off to the races for a lay-in on fast break. Just a huge play, right? He had a back tap when they were coming down 4-on-2, and it was him and maybe Io, but it was a guard for sure, 2 small guys, and he has no chance to rebound it, but he taps it out, and the Wolves get the ball back, and so you saved a possession from Denver there. So just tons of winning plays from Dante, and not to mention, again, floor game, 16 points, 6 rebounds, 7 assists. Like, he's just filling that stat sheet. Not to mention all the other little plays that he does. I mean, the 3 at the end was huge. He's just, I think the guys on the Scalabrini and Austin Rivers on the broadcast even were talking about how Dante looked confident. He looks like every time it's going up, it's going in right now, and that's huge for the Wolves, obviously. So just loved everything about Dante's game last night, and he was definitely a big piece of the soul, the effort, the energy that they need, and he brings in most nights. But I thought last night was really telling in how he showed up. The Twin Turbos, Bones and Io, both strong performances. Bones provided a scoring spark. They're going to need that 30 points a night off the bench, because their bench should definitely outscore Denver's, and Bones provided that spark. Io had 5 assists. Nas had double-digit scoring. So just, they bring that element that, and I've talked about it before, and I've talked about it with on this podcast and others, but just the flexibility of their roster right now. They can play slow, they can grind it down, they can ISO, they can, move the ball like they did last night a little bit at times. They can hunt mismatches like they did a little bit at times in that game. And they can also go super fast and play a different speed and put Nas at the 5. And now you're playing up tempo. And, Denver's just going to have to, it's early. It's 1-1. A lot of games to be played. Great series upcoming. But I do think over the course of what we all hope is 7 games, this energy and effort and speed and athleticism is going to wear out Denver. I mean, Murray and Jokic looked completely gassed at the end of that game. And there could be 5 more of these things coming. So it'll be interesting to see if Bones gets that kind of run every night, because game 1, he only got 5 minutes. Even last night, he got pulled. He had a couple really dumb mistakes. He had some fouls, took some, just made some ill-advised decisions, but he can fill it up. And so you kind of got to have him in there as that spark and just trust. Io played a much better, much more solid game outside of a couple silly fouls, which we'll get to later. But I did think that overall the bench, Twin Turbos plus Nas, are really providing what the Wolves need. There was also an interesting lineup where the Wolves went with Bones, Io, Ant, Julius, and Nas, and I thought that was again another interest. The reason I find that in the lineup interesting is because sometimes you'll get you're kind of mixing your ISO, your kind of slow down, Ant and Julius typically aren't going to get it and push it, but then you're mixing that with Bones, Io, and Nas, who love to get out and push it. So that was an interesting lineup. Now defensively, not the best lineup when you have Bones, Julius, and Nas out there together, but for a few minutes here and there, they can hold up, because I think that group can get enough scoring to kind of give Rudy a rest, give Dante the break that he needs, give Jaden a break. They didn't run that long, that lineup, but I did make a note of it because it was definitely kind of an interesting lineup that I don't remember seeing a lot of in the past. So just mixing and matching. I thought Finch did a great job. As one of the positives, one of the pluses here, Finch thought he called a great game, pushed the right buttons, left guys in the right amount of time. Rudy got in some foul trouble, but he was able to ride that a while. And also Ant and Julius seemed fresh. Ant definitely seemed more fresh in this game than he did in game one. And I think whatever was said at that first quarter timeout, or end of the first quarter, did the job, because that level of intensity, that the defensive effort, the attacking the basket really changed. And we've all been saying it, and we all know it's true. Denver has nobody at the rim to slow you down, and they finally punished them for it. I would be shocked if Denver doesn't do something different, maybe a zone. Maybe they play a little bit of zone in game 3 to try to slow down the drives. But I don't know how much you can do that against this Wolves team either. I guess we'll find out. But that's something that they got to continue to hammer, get into the rim, and even getting there, if you don't finish, you draw defense, you create opportunities for offensive rebounds, and the Wolves were able to take advantage of that in game 2. All right, let's go to the minus. So we talked about the plus. Let's talk about the minus. Obviously, from the start, the fouling jump shooters, right? Huge issue. I think that was some mental lapses. I think it was a little bit of late closeout, late reactions. So you're flying out on shooters instead of being there, meeting them on the catch. So those things were worrisome. That volume of them and the fact that they kept happening was really, in some ways the Wolves were kind of lucky to overcome that. But I thought, the the free throw issue from game 1 almost carried over into game 2. You could see a lot of frustration on the Wolves players in that run in the first quarter with all the fouling on the jump shots. I don't know how Denver was making these shots, by the way. My son was like, "Oh my gosh." And I said, "Man, they can't continue to do this," right? They were shooting, I think it was 60 some percent in the first quarter. They ended the game in the mid 40s. Regression to the mean, right? Water finds its level. So eventually they cooled off, but a lot of that was just the effort the Wolves put in defensively to be better. So that was the one thing I didn't like. A couple other mental lapses, I thought. The Christian Brown had a dunk after a made free throw where there's some confusion on who's guarding who, and in a game that's that close, that those are just things like, man, that could hurt you. That could really kill you if you just aren't paying attention or you're not communicating on who's got who. So, that was a negative. Free throw shooting almost hurt us. I think there was a chance where we had 4 missed free throws in a row between Rudy and Julius. But credit to Julius. He hit the 2 that really mattered the most at the end to put us up 3. So the free throw shooting was a concern. Overall not concerned, I guess, about the free throw shooting, but the problem is if you get Rudy shooting too many of your free throws, you're going to have a low percentage and you're going to struggle from the free throw line. And so, thankfully he didn't shoot a ton last night, but Ant got there a decent amount. Julius got there a good amount. I think he was 6 for 8 at the line. So, and the other things, like early, again, this was mostly early. I feel like after the first quarter, they were pretty solid on a lot of this, but like, Ant a couple times had Jokic out on the perimeter and he settles for a contested 3. Still don't like that. Like, to me, that's got to be almost 90+%, you got to be attacking him, because obviously when he did, there was nothing Denver could do about it. Jokic can't hang with him. There's nobody there to block shots. So they did correct that, I think, for the most part. And I think what you see then is the threes they do take in those moments are the good threes, are the kickouts, or the swing to the corner, swing it up to the slot. Like, it's not the I have nothing else to do, step back three. I have shot clock running down. Here's your grenade, right? Those aren't the threes. The threes are attack, kick, swing, and those are the ones you want. Those are the ones Dante wants, Nas wants, even Jaden. I also didn't like the way they closed out the half. They were down 19. They climb all the way back. I think they had an 8-point lead at the end of the second quarter, and they give that up, punctuated by Murray's half-court shot. But there was possessions before that. I think that ended with like an Ant 3 and a Julius 3 after you had just played so well in that second quarter. That was disheartening, I thought, and I was worried. And it did, started the third quarter, Denver kind of came out and took a little control. So again, in these games, there's like small margins. This is going to be a close series. Those are things on the minus side that I just worry about. So you just can't lose focus for 2 minutes at the end of a half. You just got to stay locked in, stay with what's working, keep attacking, pay attention to Jamal, and just make things tough. Just make things tough. So game 3, let's look ahead. Now we got return Thursday night, Target Center, home court. I don't know if home court means anything to these two teams. It seems like the road teams win in a lot of these games the last couple times they meet. But I do think there's a couple key things for the Timberwolves that I'll be watching for that I think are important to the game. The closeouts. Again, I think Denver, late in that game, there was a lot of Murray and Jokic getting frustrated. I think they're going to find a way to get more movement away from the ball, and Joker's going to get more assists. He's going to be looking for shooters. There was times in the game that Ant was caught napping, backside defenders were caught napping, and that led to these long closeouts, uncontrolled closeouts, and I think some of those fouls. And I just don't. The one thing I worry about with the Nuggets is Johnson and Hardaway get going, and we saw Murray shoot it pretty well from 3 in the last game, but you get Aaron Gordon too. Like, he's the sleeping giant in my opinion. He's obviously hurting, but if he's a guy that somehow a couple days off comes back feeling really good and starts playing really well and shoots 40% from 3 like he has all year, that's a problem. Right now, he's not making anything. And honestly, Jokic isn't really either. I think he airballed his first 3. So I think the shooters, staying connected to the shooters, which is important in the fact that right now, Rudy is doing a pretty good job on Jokic alone. If that changes and you have to send help, that's when the Nuggets are really going to hurt you. So I'll be watching the closeout game, but also the ability of Rudy and whoever's guarding Murray, usually Jaden or Io, how they can handle those two or in a 2-on-2 situation. Biggest difference I thought in game 2 from game 1 with Murray and Jokic was our ability to fight through screens. Jaden got skinny, got around Jokic's screen. He was fighting over it more. Io did a better job in this game. There was a lot less of Murray mid-range with 6-8 feet in front of him. They did a really good job, I thought, of handling that. Allows Rudy to not drop as far. They're looking to get that pocket pass from Murray to Jokic, and I think the Wolves are doing a pretty good job of shutting that down for the most part. So continue to control that middle of the floor, pick and roll, Murray, Jokic, and you can stay connected to your shooters on the outside. If any of that starts to break down, we're scrambling, giving up open shots, chasing shooters out to the 3-point line. So, I still think, you make Christian Brown and you make Aaron Gordon continue to prove it. until maybe they hit 3 or 4 in a game. But right now it's you're going to take your chances with those two, and you're going to probably try to cover up Johnson and Hardaway, and then maybe Bruce Brown too. He looks pretty comfortable at times out there. But so that's one thing. I think the other thing is Edwards just off the ball. Like when he's on the ball, he's always been pretty engaged. I think he looks his effort, I will say, on some of the chase down blocks and that block he had after he shot the 3 and he short rims it and he has to chase Hardaway down. He block. I mean, that's just like leadership stuff, right? That Ant needs to do. That was huge. But I think my concern with Ant is the kind of knock on him defensively is off the ball. He gets a little impatient. He turns his head a lot to his man. So I'm nervous in game 3 that Jokic is going to start finding cutters, specifically Edwards' man cutting, or shooters because he's not paying attention. So that's what I'm another thing I'll be looking for in game 3 to see if the Nuggets can solve for some of that and get back to kind of some movement and opportunities for Jokic to spray it around. And then the last thing is just, will the Wolves continue to hunt Murray and Jokic? There's no Peyton Watson, who's the Nuggets' best defender, but they do have other better defenders. But the Wolves have been doing a good job, especially late in that game, I thought, of really putting Murray and Jokic in bad spots defensively. So again, that's Chris Finch and the players for recognizing, but getting Jokic out on Ant on the perimeter, there's just either he's getting to the rim because Jokic can't stay with him, or you're throwing a lob to Rudy or Nas on a cut for a dunk. Like there's just nothing on the back end to help. And Valanciunas isn't providing anything either in the non-Jokic minutes. So I think the Wolves are going to continue to try to get those matchups. I don't really know what Denver can do about it because Murray and Jokic just aren't good defenders. I mean, I was going to save this for later, but Jaden called it out. He said, basically, none of the Nuggets are good defensively. And I think that's only going to ramp up this rivalry. He's got to be prepared to back that up. I'm a little nervous about Denver's mentality coming into game 3. I can't imagine that they're loving that language, but I think that's kind of how Jaden is, right? Like just he kind of tells the truth. Let's be honest. And so if you're going to hunt that mismatch, if you get Murray on Ant, they're going to send 2. When they send 2, we're getting Dante and we're getting corner shots and, long closeouts to drives for easy buckets. So I think, I don't think Denver has as many options defensively, I guess, long story short, as Minnesota. The Timberwolves can play multiple ways. They could play Rudy on Jokic straight up. They do a better job of getting over that and managing the Jokic Murray pick and roll. They have length on the back end to block some shots, especially with Jaden if he's not even out on the top, if it's Io or whatever. Rudy's blocking shots, obviously altering tons of shots. So there's just a lot of things the Wolves can do, I think, to kind of slow down the Nuggets. You've seen 2 games so far. The Nuggets have not hit their season average in points per game. So it's just a matchup that seems to lend itself to great games, intensity, different styles, which is really fun. And so it'll be a great game 3. I'm looking forward to it. Can't wait. This has been awesome. I stayed up and watched the whole game the other night. Stayed up and was so jacked after the game that I had to listen to a podcast to calm down. So appreciate hitting the hardwood, the Missing Wolves podcast, for letting me wind it down with them Monday night. But game 3, Thursday night, Timberwolves Nuggets should be another classic. Can't wait for it. Thanks again for listening. Again, if you get a chance, like and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts, primarily on Instagram, but also on Blue Sky and Facebook. If you're there, check out YouTube for some shorts and video versions of the podcast as well. Appreciate you all for being here. This is Steve Hartman, and this is the Splash City Basketball Podcast.
Back in that bag again.